Welcome to Wahey presents The Outside View, co-powered by Fantasy Akhada and Swara. And we are back with the review of the third T20I, which happened in Bristol. India unfortunately lost the match by 7 wickets. England were comprehensive in some parts, but a series loss, Mohit Shah, for India would be a little disappointing given the fact that England was sort of without the few stars, and this was a great opportunity to get this series done and dusted. But India failed to do that in the final T20I. Before we move to Mohit, just a second, I'll just run down of the scores. India managed 122 for 8 wickets from their 20 overs. Not a lot came from the top order, and then India did their best to sort of be in the game as long as they could. England chased the total down in 18.2 overs. Mohit, according to you, where did India go wrong? Obviously, it was very evident that the batting led them down in the initial overs. Did the toss play a factor? Because we were talking about that in the first two games. How would you sum up this performance from India?
Yeah, like you said, this was probably as good an opportunity as any for them to end their 23-year winning drought in England. I think it was 1999 when they last won a white ball series over there. And like you said, with all those players missing, England still didn't opt to pick somebody like Tammy Beaumont or Charlie Dean. So those players aren't even good enough to be in their squad of 14 according to England. So this was a great opportunity for India to I would have fancied them even getting a clean sweep at the beginning, especially considering what they'd done at the Commonwealth Games. But to not just lose the series, but the way they lost those 2 matches, I thought was very disappointing. And I think to answer your question, I think their batting approach was very questionable, and I think we need to ask questions of the coaching staff as well, because the way Shafali Verma has been batting of late raises a lot of questions. Either she's not getting the right advice, or nobody's pulling her in line, because she's playing a shorter ball, and even if she gets dropped, or it happened yesterday as well, there was a missed stumping of the very second or third ball of the match, then she offered a catch on the very next ball, and then eventually she got bowled. So what is the Indian coaching staff doing? If there's a talented young player, are we seeing improvements in her technique? I don't think so. Of late, the way she has been playing has been quite disappointing. And for young players, I think the coaching staff and the team management plays a very crucial role. I think Kanya Shrubsole also said it on comms yesterday that the decision to exclude Richa Ghosh really puzzled Smriti Mandana, and she had no clue about it. So when the team management say they have very clear communication and things of that sort, this doesn't really add up. So I think there are quite a few problems, and I think Ramesh Pawar must really be feeling the heat, because post the pandemic, I think India has won only 1 series, and that too came against Sri Lanka, which is not the strongest opposition. So I think the pressure is now on the coaching staff. Harmanpreet is still very new, so obviously she deserves more time, and she probably has not had the chance to stamp her authority yet. Obviously she's been around in the T20I format for very long as captain, but in the ODI format she's just taken over. So I think there's no pressure on her, but there definitely will be a lot of pressure on Ramesh Pawar, because pottering around for 13 overs at 4 an over when you have Radha Yadav batting at 10 just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, rightly said, Mohit. And you pointed out about Shafali Verma's approach. Just to give a more detailed reasoning to what you said, she also got out in a similar style in that final of Commonwealth Games, where she was dropped 1 ball, and the next delivery she again charged down the ground to Jess Jonassen and got out eventually. So yeah, right, talking to young players is important. But on just a little bit more on the batting, yesterday the batting unit was order was shuffled a bit. We saw S. Meghna coming in at number 3 instead of Hemlata. She was pushed down the order. Then Deepti Sharma and Sneh Rana batted ahead of Pooja Vastrakar and Richa Ghosh. Did that surprise you, or what does that tell you about the batting planning or approach from the Indian team management?
Yeah, the approach I think was very questionable, because we've all seen that in T20Is you are dynamic and flexible with your batting order, and it was okay to play Meghna at 3 and Hemlata at 5, because those are the positions that they are comfortable batting in. But like you said, there was no reason for them to bat Sneh Rana especially above Richa Ghosh and Pooja Vastrakar. And if they wanted to like bat Deepthi higher up the order, maybe they could have just sent her in earlier, because like you know what you get with Deepthi Sharma. She can like hold an end up and maybe stabilize the innings, but then she should have like come in a lot earlier in that case. Like once they lost 2 wickets very quickly in the power play, they should have sent her out instead of Harmanpreet. So sending her out at that stage at number 6 didn't really make a lot of sense, because a lot of overs had already gone by then, and you needed someone who could like up the scoring rate immediately, because ultimately, like we saw, World 120 was way below par. So like it would have helped India to either aim for 150, 160, or maybe just get bowled out for 80, because in the end, like 120 didn't end up making a lot of difference. So like you said, I think Richa Ghosh definitely should not bat any lower than number 5 or 6, and same for Pooja Vastakar, because they've shown enough ability with the bat, and we've been talking about this for a long time. So all they need is like a defined position and a sustained run in that position, because I think even yesterday the two of them like India added 70 runs in the last 7 overs, which is not bad at all. So that shows that the wicket was good. The toss, like you said, didn't play a role at all. Bristol generally is a ground where the toss doesn't play a big role. And even in the second innings, we saw the conditions like didn't change. They were fine. Like the bowlers didn't struggle with a wet ball or with the dew or anything of that sort. So I just think India were massively under par. And again, like it comes down to the team management, because like those decisions are made by them. So the decision to bat Richa, especially at 8, made no sense whatsoever.
We can't fault the bowlers a lot when they are sort of defending 123. But do you feel the Indian bowling unit lacks that little bit of X factor, which sometimes comes back and sort of gets them? Like there are performances where they are too good. Like last game, it was quite an impressive performance. But we have to analyze the fact that they got England 57 for 5, and still England managed to get 142 in that game. In the first game also, they were quite below par. They managed. In England changed out the total in just 13 overs with 1 wicket that were only fallen. In the third game also, in the final T20I, we saw a similar kind of performance where in India weren't able to get wickets regularly. Had they got more wickets, maybe they would have managed to get the game a little bit more tight, to take it more closer. So do you feel India as a bowling unit lacks that little bit of X factor, say like a leg spinner like Sarah Glenn, or a pacer who has the ability to sort of get the batters on their back foot?
Yeah, definitely. Like if you look at all the teams that have been really successful of late, like be it Australia or even say teams like England, New Zealand, South Africa, all of them have like a leg spinner who's really high quality. Alana King's there for Australia, there's Sarah Glenn for England, like you rightly pointed out. New Zealand has Amelia Kerr, and South Africa has Dane van Niekerk. So I think India really proudly need a good leg spinner who can like perform well in the T20I format. Also because of the reason that not just England but most teams around the world are predominantly full of right-handers. And yesterday, like we saw, the one bowler who was taking it away from the right-handers was the most successful, which was Radha Yadav. She bowled really well, almost turned the match in those couple of overs where she just gave away 2 or 3 runs, but then Alice Capsey just batted the way she does and took the chase home. But like you said, India probably need either a leg spinner, or I don't know if there are any high-paced bowlers available in India, so you obviously can't like suddenly get that. But like you said, they definitely need that X factor. So that could either be a leg spinner who's really good and is a wicket-taking bowler, or probably a left-arm spinner, because another left-arm spinner who bowls at a higher pace, because both Radha Yadav and Rajeshwari Gaikwad don't bowl all that quickly. So sometimes batters can adjust to the pace even if the ball is going away from them. Whereas with somebody like Sophie Ecclestone, you don't have that luxury. So I think there are a few things that are missing in the Indian bowling lineup, and it's like we've been talking about it, it's definitely their weaker suit, though it was the batting which failed spectacularly a couple of times in this series. I think their bowling definitely needs that X factor going forward.
T20I series is done and dusted. It was a fantastic series. Nevertheless, the ODI series will start on Sunday, and you have to stay tuned for all the coverage that will come on Women's Cricket Zone. That's it from our side on Wahey Presents The Outside View, co-powered by Fantasy Akhara and Swara.